Good evening. I call this meeting of the Gloucester Community Preservation Committee to order at 6:01 on February 21st, 2023. In accordance with state open meeting law, this meeting has been posted as a Zoom meeting and will be recorded by video and audio and will be conducted by remote participation. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button in the Zoom app that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options to be recognized. Committee members in attendance this evening include Jennifer Lee Levitt-Sarenson, Carrie McKenna, Jane Remsen, Bob Whitmarsh, Mark Poulin, Harry Hoaglander, Bill Cuff, Rob Gullah, and myself, Matt Lundberg. We are all in attendance. So with that, we will proceed to the first item on tonight's agenda, which is the review and approval of our last meeting's minutes on January 31st. I distributed these via email a few days ago. I know Bill got a chance to read through them. I skimmed briefly, and they look good to me. Do we have any comments on the minutes as submitted?
They look good to me.
Hearing no changes. Yes, Harry.
I move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion made to accept the minutes and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay. Meeting minutes are passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And Zoe, you can post those as is to the website when we get a chance to. All right, tonight's meeting is in large part an informational meeting that we hold every year to allow as many people as possible a window into how the Community Preservation Act works in the state of Massachusetts and how they can participate in the process. Just 1 minute before we continue, I want to see one thing. Let's see. Okay. I'm just having a quick technical issue here, so bear with me. All right. Zoe, I'm not sure if I got promoted to an organizer. If you could do that, that'd be great, because I'd like to be able to see public participants if we can. And I'm not seeing the link to do that. Maybe that's me.
I see five participants on there, Matt.
Great. I'm not quite sure why I'm not, you know, it's funny, I normally do this from a Mac and I'm on a PC tonight, so.
It doesn't show unless you hover your mouse at the bottom and
Yep.
then it says participants share screen, raise hand and all that.
Yep.
So you should be able to click on participants.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Yep, on a Mac it's different. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
PC user over here.
Thank you, Jane. Very good. Tonight we're going to review the Community Preservation Act and how it works and how we use it in the city of Gloucester. I'm going to make a slide presentation that is fairly brief as an overview, and then we invite anybody to ask questions, make suggestions and recommendations. The CPA is a living statute in the state of Massachusetts, and it's made to be modified to and used as each community requires it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and speak through a few slides. Bear with me for a moment. Let's see. Here we go. All right, everybody good here?
Yes.
Very good. I'll see if I can run into a slideshow. Go. All right. The Community Preservation Act. On this presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the CPA, how it was adopted in Gloucester, the kind of projects that we funded in Gloucester, our specific plan, and then ask for any public comment. So the CPA was passed in the state of Massachusetts in the fall of 2000. And it was passed in recognition that historic preservation, open space preservation, affordable housing, and recreation frequently were underfunded in municipalities when budgets got tight. And it was an effort to set aside funds that were earmarked for those purposes and allow communities a way to leverage their ability to raise money for those purposes. The state created a community preservation trust fund that is funded through a portion of fees that come off of any transactions going through the registry of deeds, so any real estate transaction. If a community would like to adopt the CPA, they must make that adoption through, put it on their town or city ballot and pass it through a majority vote. When they propose to do so, they can say to their community that I would like to create our own local community preservation fund, and the amount of anywhere from 1% to 3% of your annual real estate taxes. And then when a municipality raises money, the state matches what each community raised. The match percentage varies. My slide here says it was 43.8% in 2021. It actually turned out to be slightly higher than that in 2022. So as I said before, a CPA fund can only be used for one of four purposes: historic preservation, open space preservation, affordable housing, and outdoor recreation facilities. And at least 10% of the CPA fund each year must be used for allocated to between one of three categories: historic preservation, affordable housing, and open space and outdoor recreation combined. So that means that any given year, we have to allocate 30% of our CPA funds that are granted that year to those purposes. After that, the remaining 70% can be granted to any projects in any of those areas. 187 towns and cities, it's now up to 194, have adopted the CPA. And anybody who's interested in learning more about the CPA, we strongly recommend that you visit www.communitypreservation.org. That's the website of the CP Coalition. It's a nonprofit that was formed when the CPA was created in Massachusetts, and it's an excellent store of information about the CPA and the kind of projects that have been funded by CPAs in various towns and cities around the Commonwealth. The CPA in Gloucester. We passed the CPA in Gloucester with a 1% tax surcharge in 2008. Two attempts were made to adopt it previously with differing tax surcharges, and they failed. But in 2008, it was passed. And when you pass the CPA, a couple of things happen. One is people who pay real estate taxes in our city will see a surcharge on their real estate tax bill. And Bill, you can correct me on this if I get it wrong. I think on a house that is assessed at a value of $500,000, that amounts to, I think, $40 or $41 per year. It gets extra tacked on to your real estate tax bill each year. Our city, once we adopted the CPA and passed it, we were required to create a community preservation committee that manages how we allocate those funds in Gloucester. This meeting is of our community preservation committee in Gloucester. The formal definition of that is in the Gloucester City Charter, and it's available at that obscure URL that I have on the slide here. But you can also get to the Gloucester City Charter through the City of Gloucester's website. Excuse me. That charter requires that in Gloucester we have 9 members on the CPC, 1 each from the Planning Board, which is Jane Remsen, the Open Space and Recreation Committee, which is Mark Poulin, the Historic Commission, which is Bob Whitmarsh, and the Housing Authority, which is Jennifer Lee Levitz Aronson, and the Conservation Commission, which is Rob Gullah. In addition to those 5 members, we have 4 at-large members. Currently, those are myself, Bill Cuff, Carrie McKenna, and Harry Hoglander. Each of us serve 3-year terms. We are term limited to 2 3-year terms. At the end of each 3-year term, you can apply for to be reinstated, or what's the word I'm looking for, gang? Reinstated, it's
Reappointed.
reappointed. Thank you very much. The terms that each of us are on are also listed on the website of the City of Gloucester, the community preservation page on our website. So we have several responsibilities on the CPC. One is to develop a plan that outlines in print what we're doing tonight to a certain extent. It outlines what the CPA is, how it works in Gloucester, and where our local priorities with respect to each of our funding areas are in Gloucester. You know, what we do for historic preservation is very different from, say, Marblehead might do, or Taunton, or Lynn, or anybody else who adopts the CPA. So that plan documents that. The second responsibility that we have is to solicit public input to maintain that plan. That's the main reason for this presentation and this hearing. But we do that throughout the year as well. We all work with applicants to learn more about what they're doing. We work with various pieces of the city government where we learn more about that as well. And we talk to our friends and neighbors and people on other committees within Gloucester as well. Through the year, and our active year begins right now, we review and recommend Gloucester projects for CPA funding. We don't create those projects. Projects are submitted by parties, both governmental and private, in Gloucester, who would like to access CPA funds to support their projects. Our role is to review their applications, to help them make sure that they are eligible within the constraints of the Community Preservation Act, and then to recommend to the city which one of the applied projects that we would recommend to the city to be funded. We keep records about those. We report on the budget. We work with the city auditor and the chief financial officer to make sure that what we are recommending is within our budget, and we repeat that cycle each year. So here's our timeline. We are in February right now. We had made our recommendations to the city over the winter for applications that were made in 2022. Those recommendations were approved by the city council a week ago tonight. And so those projects will be funded through this year. The other thing we do is work with the city auditors to confirm how many funds are available for this coming year. We've also in February opened applications for 2023. And our applications take a two-stage process. The first is an eligibility application. Before we have applicants submit detailed applications for their project, the first hurdle is to make sure it's eligible. It has to conform to one of those 4 funding categories, and within the statute there are much more detail about what is eligible and what is not. So we ask applicants to give us a short, roughly 2-page application on eligibility. Those are due in early March. We then review those and rule whether they're eligible or not. If they are eligible, the applicant is made aware of it, and then they have another 2 months to get their final applications in May. And then from May to September, that's when we do our heavy work. We review the applications. We assign one of our members to each applicant and as a liaison. We discuss the project with them. We let them know if we have any concerns, and we help them to how they might best address them. In many cases, we have site visits, and we also discuss any potential issues with the city in cases where there might be. The whole goal of that is to, and also in that process, we usually have a presentation from the applicant to the entire committee, where they make a short presentation and we have a question and answer period. all leading to middle or late part of September, where we vote on our project recommendations and submit them to the mayor and the city council for approval. That approval process runs from September to February, and we repeat the process again. In Gloucester, we have, since 2008, when it was first adopted, we've provided over $9 million to over 135 projects. On the left, the pie chart shown there is for funding in that full history. As you can see in Gloucester, historic preservation has had the lion's share of funding, which should come as no surprise given the nature of our city. In 2023 only, affordable housing took a much larger piece of that pie. And in 2023, we funded a good deal of recreation projects, but no open space projects last year. Again, open space and recreation combined need to take 10% of our allocated funds in a given year. I'm just listing here briefly the 14 projects that we approved or recommended and the city approved and this says approved for 2023. I get caught up in meaning here. This was the 13th round of projects that we've done in Gloucester. These applications were made in 2022 and they were approved a week ago, hence the approved for 2023. 7 of these were historic preservation, and you can see them here. 3 were in housing and 4 were in recreation. And so we recommended and awarded just over $1.1 million in project funding in this cycle. All of those applicants are currently refining agreements with the city of Gloucester, contracts, if you will. And the way that these funds get distributed is that each project manager works with their contractors to do the work. When invoices are due, they are submitted by the applicant back to the city, and the city pays the contract directly. The city grants department reviews those invoices, as do we, the CPC. And at the end of the project, if the project has been completed and they have not used their entire grant, which happens occasionally, the additional money is taken back into the general CPC fund. Funds raised for and available for 2023 projects. This is an estimated number. I think it's fairly certain, but things do change, and they change over time too. But right now, in this year's Gloucester budget, the Gloucester local CPA funds collected through the real estate tax surcharge was just over $775,000. Matching grant from the state CPA fund was $362,000. I will make a comment on that matching grant from the state. The original matching grant was just over 35%, which is a standard number for any municipality that is collecting a 1% real estate tax surcharge. But that was bumped up because many of you, if not all of you, are aware the state of Massachusetts had a huge budget surplus in 2022, and that triggered a law that requires the state to redistribute that money to taxpayers, as well as grant some surpluses back into other places. That resulted in another 11% match back into the state CPA fund. And so that number was bigger than it's been for a while. The matching grant amount that the CPA gives to Gloucester and other municipalities varies every year. It depends on how many cities and towns are participating in the CPA, and it depends on what the state's tax revenues were and the Registry of Deeds surcharges that fund the CPA trust fund. This is as large as it's been in a long time. It has been as low as below 20% in some years. It's been very healthy for the last couple of years, and remains to be seen what happens in the future, but we've got a pretty good sized fund to work with this year.
Hey, Matt, just a comment on that. I looked at some of the information that we're provided through the Community Preservation Coalition, and they track what money is going into the state fund. And as you know, real estate has gotten soft a little bit. That fund for the first 3 months of this year is down 34% compared to the previous year.
Thank you, Bill. Which would mean that for our funding cycle that we'll work in 2024, we'll have less money to do. Because
Correct.
this money came from 2022, and then, but you're right, it will be less next year for sure. Gloucester's Community Preservation Plan. We encourage everybody to read this plan. The latest version is that you are all, again, you can also get to this more easily by going to the City of Gloucester's website, click on Government, and then the Community Preservation Committee. And on our Community Preservation Committee page, you'll see a link to get that plan. It's been revised this year, most recently just a couple of months ago. We will be revising this every year. And when we do so, we need your input. The plan governs how your CPC in Gloucester makes decisions on what to fund. It's a reflection of how we implement the CPA in Gloucester. And again, that at least 10% of funds in any given year must go to each of historic preservation, affordable housing, and open space and outdoor recreation. Excuse me. I'll say one more thing about the plan before we move to public comment, and that is that our plan is recognizes the unique components of Gloucester with respect to historic preservation, open space, housing, and recreation. But we don't take super strong positions on any of those on what we should fund. We instead rely on the submission of applications from the public to guide where we head with this. And that, I think, over the last 15 years since it's been in effect in Gloucester is why there's so much historic preservation. I know that affordable housing has become a more urgent topic today, and we've funded affordable housing initiatives in the last couple of years with the CPC in Gloucester. So we look to the public to guide these recommendations. And with that, I'm going to end my presentation and get back to people. I can put these slides back up, but I'm going to take them down now. And
I have one question.
Yes.
In the beginning of this, where you listed the various entities where the memberships come from, you said Historic Commission, and that could be confusing because we have a Historic District Commission. It should be Historical Commission.
Yes. Yep. You are absolutely correct. It is the Historical Commission, not the Historic District Commission. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, you're welcome.
So with that, I know there are members of the public here, and we certainly are all members of the public on the committee as well. If there's any of the public attendees here who would like to comment on any aspect of CPC in Gloucester, we would welcome your comments. See, there we go. And for some reason, I have lost my list of attendees, so I can't see if anybody's hand is up. Yeah,
Alice.
there's a hand. Thank you. Yep, Allison Lex has her hand up. I'm going to add her in. Allison, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. This is Allison Lex. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Action Inc. And in terms of priorities, I just wanted to express on behalf of Action that we have found working with the CPC over the past couple of years in the area of affordable housing to be incredibly beneficial to residents of the city, and the support for the short-term rental and mortgage assistance program we operate has been able to help dozens of Gloucester residents who are at risk of needing to leave their homes or leave the community. It's enabled them to stay in Gloucester, stay in their homes, support themselves, support their families, and help them get over a short-term financial hurdle so they could get back on their feet. And so when the committee continues thinking about your priorities, we strongly hope that affordable housing will continue to be one of those priorities, and that programs that provide people that short-term assistance so that they can continue to stay in the community will be continue to be a priority of the committee, because that the benefit of that resource over the past couple of years can't really fully be expressed in words. So we just wanted to make that known. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Allison. I'd say just for my benefit, my own personal opinion, your program at Action is a timely one, given the challenges we faced as a community in the last few years. So thank you for what you guys do. Anybody else? All right.
We have another one, Matt. Steve and Katie.
Floor, thank you.
I'm here with David Dow. David's representing Stage 4 Park Advisory Committee, and he has some questions.
Hi, Bob.
Thank you. Hi, Dave.
Matt, rather, excuse me. Matt, is there anything new going on here tonight as far as us filing eligibility and that sort of thing, new rules, recommendations, paperwork that I want to be sure that they're up to date on, or is that part of this year's application project pretty much the same as last year?
That part of the application process is identical to last year. We accept applications online only through a website called Neighborly. The link to that site is also on the CPC page on the City of Gloucester's website. And it's the exact same process and the exact same questions that you had to answer last year. So proceed the same way. If you have any questions, happy to take them here, or you can certainly email us over the next 2 weeks. I think, gang, I don't have the city website up right now, but I think our due date is March 7th. Do I have that right?
That's the date that I have.
Got it.
David isn't with us tonight, but we'll have an application by the 7th. But everything is pretty much the same then as far as that goes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. That's great.
And the Gloucester Rotary Club will also have an application.
Got it. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
And Matt, just to confirm, the date on the website is Tuesday, March 7th.
Thanks, Bill. Yep. So we've got 2 full weeks, but from now till Tuesday, March 7th at 11:59 p.m. That was actually a question last year, I remember. So you have up until that time. And for the benefit of people who haven't gone through it, I mentioned it's roughly a 2-page application. The key things that we need to know is an overview of the project, a description, a rough budget, time frame that you plan to do it in, and which community preservation category you believe that your project fits under and why. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks. We'll be applying, that's for sure, and blow your socks off with ours this year.
Thank you, David. All right.
So, what do we have to learn? Nothing. Huh?
Very good. Anybody else? And again, for some reason, I can't see all public attendees. So if anybody else raises a hand and you guys see it, let me know. Very good.
I don't see any hands raised yet, Matt.
Thank you. Well, then we shall move on to the next item in our agenda, which is administrative updates. We have 4 on our agenda tonight. The first one is a request from a project on our active projects sheet, the 71 Middle Street housing project at the old YMCA. That project has an expiration date on it of December 31st, 2023. They will not be done with the components of that project that they will be using CPC funds by then. And so they have requested that the project be extended until December 31st, 2024. They believe they'll be done with the project somewhere with the CPA funded portions of the project by the middle of next year. But typically when we've had those kind of extension requests come up, we just extend them to the end of the year. So I'm going to make a motion and ask for it to be moved, and then we can have discussion on it. I move that we extend the 71 Middle Street housing project's expiration date from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2024, and I so move.
Second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Committee comments, questions, more information?
Is it okay to extend more than a year?
You mean, could we extend it to December 31st, 2027 if we wanted to?
Well, yeah, just what are the boundaries, I guess?
The boundaries are whatever the city of Gloucester is willing to, and we are willing to recommend, and the city is willing to accept as a contract and expiration. This is a contract between the city of Gloucester and the grant, the grant recipient. By the way, the grant applicant in this case is the North Shore YMCA. They're the ones who are the project managers for that construction project. As I think probably most of us are aware, demolition on that project has begun. In fact, was today the big demolition day? I forget, because I'm out of town, but I know it's this week sometime. They've been clearing some stuff, but this week is they're really taking a lot of the old YMCA down. So no, we can extend it as far as the city allows. I mean, I will say this in general, Mark, we try to we don't like to have projects hanging out for a long time that are CPC funded. It just creates administrative burden, and we've got to track a lot of things. I'm looking at the currently active CPA projects, and with the new 2022 funding round, we've got 28 active projects. 23 of those were awarded either in last year or the previous year, and the other 5 are older. This is one of the older ones, but it's a big construction project, and we always knew it had a really long timeline. I would say that to me, this we could extend it longer, don't need to, and this is the first extension they've requested. So yeah, I hope
That's
that
good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, then we will vote on the motion. Jennifer Lee,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Rob, who is muted.
Yes.
And Matt, yes, motion passes unanimously. Zoe, if you would please execute the change orders and get the extension date or the expiration date on that application done, that would be great. All right. Next administrative update is just a 2022 project status update. When last we met, it was before the city council had approved our 2022 recommendations. That's been done, which means that Zoe has had to do a lot of work since then. And Zoe, this is mainly a request to you. Just wanted to check in with you and see how your process is going. So if you want to just give us a quick update, that'd be great.
Yeah, so all the contracts have been sent out.
And then I was working last week and this week just on the MOAs and the MOUs. So those are all sent out as well. So we have an MOU for the Nate Ross project, the Stage Fort Park Rehab project, an MOA for the Bayview Cemetery, and the Lucy Davis Pathway Extension. So those have all been sent out. And I'm currently working on the covenants for Manship and Schooner Adventure. So I just sent them over to our legal over at City Hall. So she's taking a look at those, and then I'm gonna send them out to Manship and Schooner Adventure and get their comments on it. So those should be all set.
Great. Just to be clear, and because I think it's an important and interesting point, my understanding, if you could go ahead and tell us a little bit of a difference between why we need a memorandum of understanding on some projects and why we need a covenant on some, that would be great.
Yeah, so for the MOUs and the MOAs, that's for when it's like city land. So for example, for the Bayview Cemetery, that's owned by the city. So we need a MOA between the DPW and the grantee just to make sure everything goes in order. And then the covenants we have set forth just to make sure that the money that is being put in, they're not going to sell the property or, you know, sell the Schooner Adventures, things like that.
Thanks. Yep. And our recent experience, the MOU that we all are aware of is Young Legend Street Hockey.
Yeah.
A great project run by a private organization, but putting a new facility onto city-owned property. And the MOU just defines who's going to own that, how it's going to be managed, and just make sure that everything's clear. The legal agreement that governs the funding is pretty simple and doesn't go into that detail, so the MOU gets attached to it. And the covenant, the most recent one we have on that is, I think, 1 or 2 years ago, the Babson Ailing House at Cape Ann Museum, in which we granted a pretty good size of money to do some restoration work on that house. And we had a covenant that basically said you can't sell or destroy that house in a certain period of time. Great. All right. Great. So you're still kind of chasing agreements. When do you think? I know that the grantees are also motivated to get things done as soon as possible. Is anything done yet on those, or are you still waiting for signatures on all of them?
I have received a fully executed contract from Action Inc. So I'm going to get that over to City Hall to be signed. So that one is all set. Others, I'm still waiting for them.
Okay. We'll get an update from you in a month. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. On to the third administrative update, signage. Rob, a very exciting email this afternoon. Thank you for that. I had no idea that we had that much information on where signs are on CPC projects.
I was surprised myself. Again, Jamie Collis, she was the gatekeeper. She was the one that she found them all, and she showed me where they were, which was tucked in the annex to a place you never would have looked. Literally slid into a pocket in a corner. But yeah, in that spreadsheet is obviously a gold mine as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to suggest that the next step for our signage subcommittee is to take that and then say, okay, so where do we want signs? Because we've got a lot of projects over the last few years that I think would be great to put a sign on. Again, some of these just you can't put a sign on some of them, right? But I think for the purposes of illustrating what kinds of things the CPA can do, it would be great to get signs in some of these and maybe to remove some signs and then net out of that, do we need more signs? If you guys can kind of come up with that for the next meeting, that'd be great. Yeah,
the only thing I wrote my email to that I just think it's important to note is that being in a business where I put signs up occasionally on my projects, they're they're all wall mounted kind of ones where they have to kind of screw into the building, which most people don't like. So we may want to just be cognizant of that when we're selecting areas, that one, they're okay with us putting a couple screw holes into something, or do we need to look at a different system, some sort of, something we stick in the ground? I don't know.
Right, right. Yep, yep, makes sense. If you could include that, that'd be great.
Is there a length of time the signs are supposed to be up? A year, is there any guidelines on that? Because
No, I don't think there's any guidelines on whether or not you put a sign on a project, and if so, how long does it stay
how
up?
long does it stay? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's one in this right near the charging stations at City Hall. I think there's one there still.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that ultimately they're, if you look at that spreadsheet, which is very detailed, but kind of hard to follow, is that you're gonna have situations where people don't even return them. I don't know if they're throwing them out. I don't know if they're just going into, someone's basement.
right.
But we might, that isn't our job, but that's part of the problem, I think. We don't know exactly where they all might have gone.
Mhm.
Do we want to take over the maintaining of that spreadsheet with our project list, or something that
I think we could take that and create our own list, but that's the whole city's list of stuff. I don't think we need to get into
oh,
that.
that was I didn't have time to read it all. I just saw
Yeah,
that.
it's everything. It's every department, everybody who had a sign kind of thing.
Oh,
Wow.
okay, all right, yeah, that yeah, it's different.
Mhm.
Jane,
Yeah, Matt, I have a question. I know that I'm trying to catch up here and understand and so forgive me if I'm going over common ground that you guys all understand. But there is a sign ordinance, right? And the sign ordinance says what kinds of signs you can put up and how long you can put them up. And I thought it was like 30 days in a residential district or something like that.
does that sign, well, that's an interesting point. We should look at that. I don't know how that applies to CP signs. Harry, you have a point?
I don't know whether that sign ordinance only refers to commercial signs and not to informational signs. And also, I was wondering if the reason the city maintains that, who has the responsibility for posting these? Is it the Public Works or is it the we?
You're supposed to get a sign permit from the building inspector when you erect a sign. Now, I don't think that it doesn't apply to political signs, obviously, because that's freedom of speech. I don't think it applies to contractor signs and stuff like that. But I do think there's a time limit on how long those signs are supposed to be up. So
I think that sign ordinance is really for marketing purposes. If the sign is marketing something, promoting something, and I think that the community preservation would not fall under that, even though in a way it is marketing, the CPC. I believe that the sign is if you're selling something, if you're trying to promote selling something. I believe that's what the ordinance is for.
I would agree. I think it's more about, we're giving away money. We're not making any money with
Right.
those.
Well, I think it's worth getting a read of it.
Good point, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah, it's worth getting a read on it and seeing how we think it pertains to us. And if we have any questions, we'll get a read on it from legal.
Yeah. The other part of that question, which I don't know how to answer, is in terms of who puts it actually in the ground. I know that in previous situations dealing with the plovers and signage, we were able to come up with an agreement in terms of that, with, I believe, the DPW now is managing putting up the fencing and that alike, but I don't know if it's really their job either. That's the problem. So
Yep.
have to look at that as well.
I think the building inspector can easily and quickly answer
I agree.
any question.
Good. All right. Well, thanks. So signage done. We'll update next month on where we want to put them.
Hey, Matt, one question on the signage. And Rob, this is a great list. Thank you for getting this to us. How many signs did you say you had in storage?
6.
6, okay. And the one thing that I think we should talk about is, I think all of those signs have Carolyn Kirk as mayor.
Correct.
So down the road, if we make a decision to order more signs, I think I would make a motion that we not include the name of the mayor. Because that's an elected position every 2 years. And is it necessary to have the name of the mayor on the sign?
I-
It's 4 years.
Yeah, I don't think that there's nothing in the state statute or the city ordinance that says what's got to go on a sign.
Right.
So the answer is no, we don't have to have the mayor's name on it. And since the former Mayor Kirk's name is on the sign, I would think we should just get the DPW to spray paint it over or something before we use them again. Or not. I mean, I think we probably should vote on that here before anything goes out. So.
Yeah, what they did was they put black tape over the mayor's name. So the 6 that are in storage have just a black strip of tape over the mayor's name.
I'll volunteer to go find some matching spray paint. That would look better than a piece of black tape.
And I will admit that the sign at the welcoming center, Stage 4 Park, has had the tape ripped off, so.
Oh, okay. Well, more.
This list that Rob sent out shows, these are all the CPC projects, 2017 and before, right?
Mhm.
Projects,
I think so.
huh?
I think you're correct. Yeah, I don't have it
Yeah.
over either.
And then I don't know if we have a list from 18 to 20. Well, I know we have 19 and 20, but we could probably.
Yeah, so you know how I have that list of active projects that we update once in a while with how much money they spent and whether it's still active or not. I also have, which I worked with Jamie on originally before Zoe came on board, a full list of every project the Gloucester CPC has ever funded. And actually, it's all available on the CP Coalition's website too. You can see every project that's been approved from any city or town in Massachusetts on their website. So, but I've grabbed that and I've cleaned it up a little bit. I don't think I've ever shared it with this committee, but I'm happy to maybe use it and say which ones have signs on them, right?
Right.
Okay, I'll put that on my to-do list and get you guys that full list.
Thank you.
Okay. That leaves us, unless there's anything else on signage, one last administrative update, which is the ordinance updates. I forget how this first came to light. Well, there was a couple of things that were outstanding, but then, Bob's first full term just expired and he was reappointed, but not without some confusion. Melissa Gillis, who handles a lot of the scheduling of board and commission appointees, rightfully said that, gee, you guys have term limits. I think we're the only committee in the city that has term limits. And she just wondered whether a partial term counted as a full term in our term limits. So Bob's reappointment was held up for a while we got a readout on that from the city legal. And they confirmed that no, a partial term does not count as a term with respect to term limits as they're defined for the Community Preservation Committee. That's all well and good, but it was never documented anywhere. The term limits are not required by the state statute. That's a City of Gloucester Code of Ordinances definition. So I then submitted updates to the CPC section in the city ordinances to the mayor's office to recommend to O&A. And it was to clearly define the term limits issue, as well as clean up a number of mainly typos, or in the case of open space and recreation, a misnaming of the committee. And that was about it. So I forwarded that document to all of you. It's already in the pipeline. So we could certainly submit any other changes to it, but they're kind of already down the road in this round of changes to the ordinance. So I hope none of that looked bad or wrong to any of you.
I thought it looked great.
Yeah, it looks good.
Great.
All right. Yes, Jennifer Lee.
I am someone who took over a partial
Mhm. I
What
think
were-
there's quite a few of us. I'm not, I think, Bill, you are, right?
I was, but I got I just started last February. I started my first 3-year term.
Got it. So anyway, that's, I think, all now fully understood. And if anybody has any question about where their terms are, you can ask me, because I waded my way through that morass a little while ago. It's a lot of fun looking through 3-year-old O&A minutes. Okay, that's it for administrative updates. Our next meeting schedule is March 21st, and I wanted to just talk about that a little bit. Eligibility deadline is March 7th. Zoe, can you tell us how many eligibility applications are already in?
We just have one so far.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought there were more, but that's fine. We know of, I think between all of us, we probably know of at least 4 or 5 that will be coming in. It'll be interesting to see. Last year we had, like 22, I think. And then we knocked out 5 or 6 that were ineligible. And I remember that in the last 3 or 4 days of eligibility, we saw a lot of those come in. So it'll be interesting to see how many project applications we have this year. They close on March 7th. When they close, you should all have access to the Neighborly portal as a reviewer, and you should be able to look at these applications. If you can't, let Zoe know. And then come March 7th, we should all be in there and looking and reading the eligibility applications, because at our March 21st meeting, that'll be the primary piece of business, which is to review each of those applications and vote on whether we deem them eligible or not, or whether we need more information.
Matt, I just had one question on that. We have the one application, but it's dumped in the 2022 projects. Will we have a separate page that will put all the 23 projects in one location? Are they all going to be dumped into that 22 grouping?
Well, I think that depends on how Zoe answers my next question. And Zoe, what I would suggest is that we create a view of some sort on Neighborly, so that we don't see the 2022 applications that we've already considered and voted upon, and only see the 2023 eligibility applications that start to come in. Can we do that?
Yeah, so on my side, there's the 2023. So I'm setting up a meeting with our Neighborly rep to talk to her tomorrow, because there has been a lot of confusion with that.
Yeah.
So that should get sorted out tomorrow, and you guys should be able to see 2023, but I'll eliminate 2022 so there's no confusion.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
And the only other order of business that I can think of right now for the March 21st meeting will be signage update, and think about which signs we want to have go where. Okay. Any
Hey,
other? Yes.
Yeah. One comment. Did you want to mention that Harbor Lights meeting to the group in case anyone is interested in attending?
Yeah. If you're not aware of it, Harbor Lights, who is the grant recipient for the Main Street housing application in 2022 that we just awarded. They're a developer of affordable housing. They are sponsoring a 2-night seminar on affordable housing, a kind of a broad coverage of topics around affordable housing in the state of Massachusetts. It's at the Rose Baker Center on March 7th and March 8th, each night from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's not the same meeting twice. It's different meetings each night, which covering different topics. Is everybody aware of this? If you're not and you're interested, I'll just forward the information I have to everybody, because there is I don't think you have to sign up. I forget, but it's open to the public.
You have to register.
You do have to register, yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember if I'd done that or not. Does anybody need that information?
Yes, please.
I'll send it to everybody. Great. Thank you, Bill.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
Harry.
Yeah, just one question, since I wasn't here last year for this process. on the meeting on that we're going to have, the next meeting, will we be reviewing the initial applications?
Yes, yes. So that's why we closed the initial applications on March 7th. That gives us 2 weeks to print them out, get around technical difficulties if they're there, review them, generate our list of questions, and then we can come prepared on the 21st. If it goes like last year's, that was, if I remember right, you guys, was probably at least probably close to a 2-hour meeting. Just because we had so many applications, we had, like 20 odd. But the conversation in some of those applications, Harry, was really simple. Oh yeah, this is definitely eligible. We had a handful, not many right away that we said, no, not eligible. And then we had probably 5 or 6 that we just had to get more information from. And so we assigned one of us to contact the applicant and better understand what they were after.
So Matt, do those applications come to us in the form of a PDF or something or do we need to go on the Neighborly website to look at them?
You need to go into the Neighborly website to get to them. And Zoe, could you make sure Jane has credentials to get in?
Yeah.
Or let her know how she gets in.
Yeah. Did you already invite me, Zoe? Because I saw something and I didn't act on it.
Yeah, I think I invited you as a reviewer on
Okay.
one of the cases. So if that worked, I'll add you to the rest of them as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me think. Oh, one other thing on Harry's question. I do remember from last year when we had that meeting and we said there was a few that we needed more information on. We had another meeting in fairly short order because we wanted to lock those in as to whether they were eligible or not quickly, so that those applicants could then start to work on their full application. So if memory serves, we scheduled another meeting at most 2 weeks after that one. So if we need to, we'll schedule an extra one to just quickly, have votes on those ones that we needed more information on.
Yeah, I have a quick, can anybody come in after the preliminary applications?
Yes, they can. We would need to decide as a committee what we wanted to do with that. We have a process for that. It's an off-cycle application. The reason, the main reason we have a process set up like this is is to try to minimize the burden, not just on us, but also on the city council. Because we have to go through this formal funding process. We are making recommendations and they are granting use of taxpayers' dollars. So we try to make that go through this formal set. There are cities and towns that do this differently than we do. Most people run on an annual basis. Some towns and cities run on like a twice a year basis to do this. So food for thought.
I think I meant not an off cycle, but if someone misses the March 7th, can they still do something for the actual application this year?
Not in the way that we've defined our process, no.
Okay.
Is there
Right,
somebody
that
that
happened
you-
last year, right, Matt? Remember? That happened last year, right?
With which project?
The tennis courts.
Right.
They missed the deadline, and it turns out they didn't file for an off cycle.
Yep.
And went a different route.
Harry, did you have a question? I think I saw you.
I did. I can't find the hand raising one. That's why I keep waving at you, Matt. But
That's okay.
do we publicize this in any way, or does the city? Because otherwise, before I came on this committee, it was sort of an inside ball game committee. And I don't know whether we even want to get the word out, because all it means is more work for us. But by the same token, it's a desirable project to have everybody aware of. I don't know how we do that, or
Yes.
if we have done that.
So we have to publicize every year when we go through the annual round in the 30 days prior. So beginning a month ago, beginning less than 2 weeks ago, we started an outreach, mainly through Carrie's efforts, and mine as well. We did that last year. We pretty much ran the same playbook again this year. The city has posted on their social media sites and through other communications that our new 2023 round is active, and that eligibility applications are due by March 7th. Gloucester Times published a decent sized notice yesterday in the paper that had that. 1623 has published a notice, and we should be doing a video interview with Corey Carew in the next week or two to that extent. We usually do something through Good Morning Gloucester as well. Did they post something, Carrie?
Oh, yeah, and he's been away. He's back now, so I'll reach out to him again, mark you on it, and get you scheduled to go on. And it's also gone out in the Chamber's newsletter for the last couple of weeks, and that will continue through March 7th.
Great. So as much outreach as we can, Harry. Those are the relevant media outlets that we have in the city, both online and print. And that's the extent to which we try to let people know.
Well, it sounds like more than adequate to me, so that's fine. I probably don't see some of that because I'm vacationing in sunny Florida here, but.
Or Peru.
I wasted my money. I understand it's 60 degrees up there in Gloucester.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's excellent. So I think that is it for this evening. Any other orders of business on anybody's plate?
I don't know if Rob or Mark or Jennifer want us to do anything additional as far as the signs are concerned. You want to give us some assignments or?
Yes.
I don't know if we need to do assignments now that we now know. I think we got to absorb that document first because there's a lot in there.
Right.
What's where. But I think we have 3 people on it right now. I think that's all we need right now, but I appreciate if we need your bill, we'll bring you in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think the big one in that is that it's great that we actually know where signs are or were, and how many we've got, and then, let's say where we think they should go. Good.
We could do that between now and next meeting.
Yep.
And everybody can think of that if they want to.
That's right. So I will, for my part, I will get that list of all projects out to everybody. Maybe not until next week because I'm down in New Orleans until then, and I'm going to put aside the CPC work for a few days.
Okay.
Enjoy yourself. You should.
Thank you. So unless there is any other business, do I hear a motion to?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay. Motion is passed unanimously. This meeting of the CPC is over. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy
Have
the
a good
rest of
week,
the week.
everybody.
You.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good times roll.
Bye.